Morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay, great. I wasn't sure if Lynn was going to kick us off or if I should just dive in. So I was going to give it another minute or two to see if she hopped on. Okay, great. Well, I will kick it off then. James, can you hear me? Okay. Um, I was hoping just to get a little bit of information from everyone on today to kind of help inform our discussion. So in the chat, would people drop in any information on if you work on a local unit that has a national scenic or historic trail on it, or if you have ever worked on an incident with a national scenic or historic trail, and just drop in the chat like what unit you work on or what national scenic and historic trail you have worked with before. Great, and then I'm going to pull up my presentation and we will dive in. And could everyone let me know, like this volume sounds good, right? Because I've had issues with my speakers, so I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Okay, great. All right. Let me get going here. Apologies, things are moving a little slow this morning. All right. Could everyone see that presentation okay? Give me a thumbs up if so. Great. So we'll dive in, and everyone, just so you know, I'm getting tons of feedback right now, so I'm going to mute someone before we start. Okay, sorry about that. All right, sorry everyone. I feel like a little bit of technical difficulty with any meeting is par for the course. All right, back to the presentation. Second. All right, we get to our presentation screen. So, all right, everyone. So my name is Lindsey Steinwachs. I am the Pacific Crest Trail Administrator, and I'm going to be giving us a little training today on National Scenic and Historic Trails. So this is going to be a pretty casual and open presentation. So I'm going to pause for questions here or there. I cannot see the chat when I'm presenting, unfortunately, because I only have one screen. So if you have a question, I'm going to pause here or there. And then I am happy if you come off mute and ask a question at that point, but I won't be able to see hands and chat comments until I get out of the presentation screen. So apologies for that. So we'll just dive right in. So today, kind of what we're going to talk about are what are national scenic and historic trails? Why are they important? Where are they? Who is responsible for them? And how do we reasonably manage and protect for this resource in fire? And how do we repair this resource post-disaster? So what is a National Scenic and Historic Trail? Well, these are congressionally designated trails. Just like wilderness, wilderness is designated under the Wilderness Act. The National Scenic Trails and National Historic Trails are designated under the National Trails System Act of 1968. So a National Scenic Trail is a long distance trail that provide unique opportunities to hike or ride through areas of outstanding scenic beauty. And a National Historic Trail is a long distance trail that follows original trails or routes of trail of national historical significance. So below we do have our Forest Service administered National Scenic and Historic Trails. I do apologize that this presentation is going to be Forest Service centric. I am looking to expand upon this training in the following year. So today we are going to be talking a little more specifically about the 6 National Scenic and Historic Trails that we have below, including the PCT, the CDT, the Florida Trail, the Nez Perce Trail, Arizona Trail, and the Pacific Northwest Trail. So why are National Scenic and Historic Trails important? Well, they showcase America's rich natural and cultural heritage. They connect people with their public lands, and they inspire citizen stewardship. They are really the gems of our trail system. And so where are these Forest Service National Scenic and Historic Trails located? So on the bottom left, you'll see again those 6 National Scenic and Historic Trails that are administered by the Forest Service. And then you'll see the other National Scenic and Historic Trails in which we manage a portion of the trail, but we are not the lead agency. So who is responsible for a National Scenic and Historic Trail? So we have 2 kind of different roles here, and I think this is really important to understand when you're on an incident and understanding like who to reach out to and who to contact if there is potentially an impact for a National Scenic Historic Trail. So we have an administering agency for every National Scenic and Historic Trail, and so that is the federal agency delegated by the Secretary of Agriculture or Secretary of Interior per the National Trail System Act, for which that trail coordination, guidance, technical assistance, and consultation with managers have physical site management responsibility. So there is an agency that's really designated again by Congress that is responsible for the coordination of the entire trail across all the different lands and land jurisdictions that it covers. And then we have a managing agency. So a managing agency is the federal, tribal, state, or local agency with the authority and or responsibility for decision-making for that specific trail for the lands under its jurisdiction. The managing agency retains responsibility for planning, maintenance, and management unless transferred to a joint in a joint memorandum of agreement. So this really kind of breaks down in that. So for example, the Pacific Crest Trail is administered by the U.S. Forest Service. So my position as the trail administrator is to coordinate everything from policy-wide things down to like on-the-ground trail maintenance, to coordinate with each of the managing agency units, which includes 25 national forests, 6 national parks, and 7 BLM units. It's the Forest Service job and responsibility to ensure that the managing agencies are making decisions on their piece of ground that they have decision space for, that they're making consistent decisions so that we manage the trail as like a holistic resource. So who's responsible? Again, continued. So in the Forest Service, we have our 6 national scenic and historic trails. So additionally, it's not that that decision space is held at that WO level. We delegate it down to a regional level to manage a national scenic or historic trail. So for the Arizona Trail, Region 3 is designated as the lead, and the Arizona Trail is only in Region 3. But for these others, we have potentially a region that is the lead, but there's other regions that it's located in. So, so for the Continental Divide National Scenic Trail, Region 2 is the lead, but the trail goes through Region 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so that obviously adds to increased complexity around, you know, consistency between all these different regions. I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions about this? Okay. Awesome. So National Scenic and Historic Trails are administered by the Park Service or Bureau of Land Management. They are mentioned here. So the Park Service has way more trails than any other agency that they administer. And so as you'll see, we have a ton of historic and scenic trails managed by the Park Service, and then we have several co-managed by the BLM and Park Service. And then on your right, you'll see that although these are administered by the Park Service or Bureau of Land Management, it doesn't mean that they don't cross Forest Service land. So you'll see, you know, the North Country National Scenic Trail has Region 1 and 9 of the Forest Service in it, but the Park Service is the lead agency. And so there's that coordination across agencies to ensure that we're managing the trail consistently. All right, so this is how, so after that overview, we're kind of going to dive into like how do we reasonably manage and protect a national scenic and historic trail resource in fire. So I've kind of broken it down into a couple of steps for us today to kind of just talk about. We're going to go kind of pretty big scale into policy, but I think that's really important for everyone to kind of understand the importance of a national scenic or historic trail and how. Oh,
Uh-oh.
is everyone muted? Is there a question? Sorry, I can't see the chat unless I stop presenting. All right. Okay, let me start up my presentation again. Sorry about that, everyone. All right. So, so step 1 would be to hit the books. So understand the designated law and supporting management direction. So that's what we'll talk about first. And then step 2 on a fire incident is to talk about it. So communicate management direction to your lead read and agency administrator. A lot of these positions, as we know, you know, we're cycling through lead reads and AA, you know, every 2 weeks. And a lot of these positions aren't necessarily people located on the district or local unit, and they might not be aware of the designating, you know, policy around National Scenic Historic Trails, and they might not really understand the difference between a regular trail and these special designation places. And so I think it is really important to try to have that information and know where to look to provide that that policy and that direction so that your lead read and AA can advocate for the trail. Step 3, advocate for National Scenic and Historic Trails. So request minimal impacts to them unless health and safety is at risk. Obviously, I'm not, just like everything with fire, if health and safety is at risk, obviously we understand that. But if we can minimize impacts through the planning process and whatnot, obviously that's going to really benefit the trail in the long run. And consider ordering up help. So request a wilderness or trails reef to oversee the National Scenic Trail or Historic Trail on a fire. And then step 4, repair to a high standard. So this isn't just getting the trail tread punched back in. This is really talking about the view shed and the surrounding resources and values of the trail that sometimes is not communicated or understood well in the fire incident. And then step 5 is to reach out. So your trail administrators like myself and our partners are available there to support you. And I'm going to give you a little bit more information about that at the end. All right, so step 1, hit the books. So where can I look for management direction on National Scenic Historic Trails? So the biggest high level, and again, I'm going to be relating this to wilderness a lot because I feel like wilderness just is a little bit, I think, more talked about and relatable. And so I'm just going to try to explain that in context. But so we're going to start with the National Trail System Act. So this is the designating act that addresses trail designation and legal direction for management of all national scenic and historic trails. We have comprehensive management plans for each national scenic historic trail that addresses the management actions of each trail across all jurisdictions. So that's kind of a specific to each trail, and you should be able to look that up easily. And then we get down to a forest level or a park level. So there's the land and general management plans that address management of the land, including land around the trail, like within the corridor, quote unquote corridor, within a Forest Service or park unit. And then we have even a more specific level that like forest or park specific fire directives or guidelines that address specific resources on a forest and states guidelines for how to treat that resources in relation to fire. So this just kind of gives you, again, summarizing, like we're starting up here with the National Trail System Act, which is like our broadest and most general, but designating legislation, policy, and then we get more specific as we go down into the comprehensive management plan of a trail, and then we have unit level land management plans, and then we have forest specific directives and guidelines. All right, so National Trails System Act, it was designated and signed into law in 1968. And that is what has designated all of our national scenic and historic trails. And within that act, it requires the establishment of a trail right-of-way. It states non-motorized use with few exceptions. It places a requirement for a comprehensive management plan for each trail. And it outlines that coordination across jurisdictions and like who is what agency is responsible for managing a trail. And it calls specifically for engagement of partners and volunteers to manage and maintain our national scenic and historic trails. So comprehensive trail plans, they define the acquisition, management, development, and use of the trail, including objectives and practices to be observed in the management of the trail, including identification of all significant natural, historical, and cultural resources to be preserved, agreements that should be put in place, general and site-specific development plans, and identify suitable uses that are allowed or prohibited along the trail, and generally include a nature and purposes statement. So a good place to start if you get onto a fire as a lead read, or you're tasked with, kind of figuring out what's going on with this trail and how we need to either protect it or manage it on an incident is, kind of searching your comprehensive trail plan for that trail. There might be information in there that could be useful for you about, the corridor or management area to which the trail is managed. Again, when we're talking about historic trails, there might be specific historic resources that we really need to look to protect. And just also give you an idea about allowable uses or prohibitions on that trail. Forest management direction. So a land management plan may include designated management areas and or like a trail corridor around the trail. So, I think a lot of us just think about a trail as the trail tread or, the clearing distance. Well, with a lot of our national scenic and historic trails, we actually are managing for more than just trail tread, right? And so sometimes it's important to consider that there could be this management area around it to which we have had defined desired conditions or objective standards and guidelines to manage the resources within like that view shed to a different standard. And then we have the fire specific directives and guidelines that may include resource advisor resources, suppression repair standards, and then obviously any information that's provided to WFDIS. So I'm going to pause here really quick. Does anyone have questions? I'm just going
Hey,
to
Lindsey.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Ann over on the Tonto. So are we the only one that don't have a plan yet for one of these trails? Because the Arizona Trail does not. We're going through the process. So are we the sad lone outliers?
No, you're not actually. The Pacific Northwest Trail is actually at the same point in their process of working through developing their comprehensive management plan. And it's not a bad thing that you're a newer trail too. And so I think, the PCT was one of the two first designated national scenic trails. And so with that comes, the PCT has been a national scenic trail for 54 years. The Arizona Trail and the Pacific Northwest Trail are designated after that. And so although you don't have a comp plan yet, it's really great because actually developing a comp plan in this day and age, after we have all of these like 30 plus different national scenic and historic trails, it allows them to learn from maybe what we didn't know 50 years ago. So I'm actually really excited about the Arizona and Pacific Northwest comp plans. I think they're going to be super comprehensive. They're going to be really well thought out. And I think they're going to be really, really useful. So although you don't have one, I think what you're going to get is going to be really awesome. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. If you talk about how we utilize comprehensive plans, can you talk about other options for those two trails until they have a plan, please?
Sure. So definitely what I would say at this point is you're going to have to lean on what's in your existing land management plan. And I'm going to be honest, it might, I'm not sure what your LMP says about specifically the plan through your unit. You're going to just have to lean on that. And it might be as simple as like a call out, like it might be a sentence or two. And what I would recommend for you is that if something comes up, and we'll talk about this later, but let's say that there is a situation in which your trail is, a resource at risk in an incident, reach out to your trail administrator and kind of work with them really closely on, just advising them of what's happening, what the situation is, and they might be able to provide you with more direction or I guess ideas of how to handle that. But I will say that your comp plan is close. I mean, it's closer than it's ever been. And once you have that, it will be really, really useful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would definitely, I mean, this is the biggest thing I want everyone to get out of this. If you get one thing out of this presentation, it's that trail administrators exist. Like, I am a person, I'm here for you to support all of you in managing our National Scenic Historic Trails. And like, we're real people, we're here, we're on the ground, we want to help. And we are like, all I think about is PCT all day. So, in your region, the Arizona Trail Administrator, like, she thinks about this. And so like, if you reach out to her, she's going to be able to pull from all of her resources and get you the right information you need if it exists. So that's my number one.
And I was asking the question more because we've already been through all this, and it was more trying to lean towards a learning lesson for others, because on the Tonto, we've already been through all of this, and we had substantial impact to our trail. So I just wanted others to be aware that we're not, that there is differences when you don't have a comprehensive management trail, and especially in working with partners.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And I would love to, I'm going to have a section. I'm going to try to speed through the rest of this, because I would love some healthy discussion about experiences that we've had with dealing with National Scenic Historic Trails and just adding visibility around that resource. So so thank you so much for the information, and I really welcome you sharing your story in a couple minutes. So we'll dive into that. But yeah, thank you for the question. And then there are a couple questions in the chat. I'm gonna hold. Oh, I see one hand go up. What is your question? I think Jana?
Hi, yes, this is Jana Comstock. I'm on the Santa Fe National Forest. I'm wondering, is there a list of, or is there anyone in Region 3? I have like 3 National Historic Trails on my zone. Is there a contact in Region 3 for help with that? I know you're specifically for PCT.
Yeah, so at the end, I'll ask you to hold, but I'll explain. We do have a page with it's an interagency page that lists all of the contact information of the trail administrator for every single National Scenic and Historic Trail. So that is going to be your go-to. And I do have contact information at the end. So I will jump into that soon for you. But yes, we should be able to get you the right contacts in your email list so that you know who to reach out to.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I'm going to hold the rest of the questions so we can get through the rest of this, and then we will dive into a healthy discussion. So, what happened here? Hold on. I don't know why it's not. Oh no, I'm having such bad luck with my presentation today. I really apologize. It's never really this bad. Okay, one sec. We're almost there. The computer is glitching really badly. Okay. Can everyone see this with, even though it's not in presentation mode? Well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to keep it like this then, because I can monitor the chat a little bit better then. Okay, so step 2 is to talk about it. So specific considerations for fire suppression and repair related to National Scenic and Historic Trails is we're managing for more than just the trail tread. Can't get that like screaming that from the top of the hills. Not just 24 inches of tread. We are managing for other resources and values. Seamless management. So fires know no jurisdictional boundaries. And it's really great to try to coordinate between all land jurisdictions to make sure that we're repairing or trying to advocate for minimal impacts of the trail across all land boundaries, whether Park Service, BLM, Forest Service, local, state, designated corridors and management areas. Again, sometimes we have specific buffered out management areas for our trails. And then the difference of National Scenic and Historic Trail segments. Not all National Scenic and Historic Trails are in designated wilderness. They cross various landscapes. And how do we deal with that? And then authorizing motor vehicle use during emergencies. So those are some of the key things we're going to talk about quickly. So when we talk about managing, we're not just managing for this. We're not managing 24 inches of tread. A National Scenic Historic Trail are managed to protect for the nature and purposes, which is stated in their comprehensive management plan, to encompass the intrinsic values and resources associated with their trail. This means that resources and values along the trail should also be considered. So in relation to like the PCT, which is a National Scenic Trail, we are managing for more. We're managing for viewshed. We're managing for the, biological diversity, for the historic values, the cultural values through which the PCT crosses. And so we're not just, as a trail administrator, I'm not just thinking about, wow, is this trail here? I'm thinking about like, oh, wow, is the viewshed protected? Like, what are the impacts of like, restoring this trail to make it look naturalized and really minimize the impacts for also like the user experience. And so, yeah, with the slide, we're saying we're managing for this, like we're managing for an experience and a high overall recreation setting and experience. Recreationists are inspired not just with what is below their feet, but what they see while walking and riding. And in this case, resting on or by the trail. So outstanding scenery is a key feature of National Scenic Trails. And for National Historic Trails, management includes protection of nationally historic routes, trails, sites that had a far-reaching effect on the broad patterns of American culture. So seamless management. So as I mentioned, fire knows no boundaries. It may cross over jurisdictional boundaries. So request consistent and equitable repair along the entirety of that National Scenic Trail. What we saw with the Dixie Fire last year, it was on the Lassen and the Plumas. And the Dixie Fire was so big that it was broken into two different incidents, basically. It was broken in half. So something to think about is how we can kind of do better and communicating with our local units and within the IC to make sure that, one section or one part of the PCT in the incident isn't maybe like, repaired and the other is forgotten. Coordinate with unit staff. Unit staff, again, they're managing the PCT or National Scenic or Historic Trail on a daily basis. And so they might have some really useful information or contacts for you. And then designated partner organizations can provide trail perspective and assistance, which we will talk about soon. Okay. They may have designated management corridors that encompass the resources and values for which the trail is designated. So you would find a management area or corridor most likely called out in a comprehensive management plan or in a land management plan on a local park or forest unit. And so this would call it desired conditions for that trail. And it would include specifically calls out for recreation, scenic, historic values that they want to specifically protect. And so that's something we have to think about when we're talking about suppression and suppression repair. Is not always just about punching the trail back in. It's also thinking about those other key resources that the trail was designated and identified and managed for. So this could be scenic vistas, water features, campsites, cultural sites, etc. And within that, there might be specific objectives and standards and guidelines to protect for those resources and values. So for National Scenic Trails too, you may see a scenery integrity objective. And for historic trails, you might see specific callouts for management of historic sites and cultural landscapes. Okay, so National Scenic Historic Trails may traverse many different settings. They are not de facto wilderness trail-wide. And so unlike wilderness, other multiple uses are not automatically prohibited or restricted along trails. So it is really good to be aware of like, how potentially different management overlaps with the trail. So there are portions of National Scenic and Historic Trails that are designated on roads. There are portions of National Scenic and Historic Trails that are on, remote trails or built through wilderness. There are portions of specific National Scenic and Historic Trails that allow mountain biking. There are others that only allow foot traffic. There's a lot of different allowable uses, and it's just really important to be aware of the fact that the portion of the trail that you might be managing for might have a very different situation than what you were thinking about. Even with the Pacific Crest Trail, we have portions of the PCT that are actually designated on roadwalk because we haven't identified a permanent alignment on a trail. And so just be aware that it's always good to reach out and not assume that because you have a National Scenic Trail somewhere that we need to treat it like wilderness. There might be areas where it's totally okay to, obviously use chainsaws and whatnot. But if we're in wilderness, we have a different situation with management. And so just make sure you have your situational awareness that our trails traverse many, many different settings. And this is where our comprehensive management plans and our land management plans really provide us that specific section specific information about how it's managed. So this is a kind of interesting piece that is interesting. I'm not going to say anything more, but so in our designating act, it says that motor vehicle use of a National Scenic Trail may be specifically authorized as necessary to meet emergencies or enable access of adjacent landowners to provide trail per the trail's authorization process. So this just specifically says that we should really have a regulation for each trail that specifically states how we're going to authorize motorized use on a National Scenic and Historic Trail. I'm not entirely sure that every trail has this, but it is something that I am trying to, I guess it shouldn't always, it shouldn't just be assumed and it should be thought about and considered, I guess, on a unit level. And I would definitely encourage people to reach out to their trail administrators when there is going to be emergency use of motorized vehicles on a National Scenic and Historic Trail. This process, I wouldn't say is super outlined. On the PCT, we do have a regulation that restricts, obviously public use of motorized vehicles, but definitely just wanting to ensure that we are thinking about motorized use and if it's necessary on a National Scenic Trail and the potential impacts of that. So that's all I'll state there is just, if this is happening for an emergency, just let your trail administrator know. That's all I'm saying. They'll work their channels. And definitely not to say that. Good question, Harding, about our emergency. Definitely, this is something that I'm keenly looking at with the PCT to provide a little more direction on. So, how do we repair a National Scenic and Historic Trail? So again, everything I just blurted at you with management direction, I'm just trying to let you know that there are tools out there that explain how we manage a National Scenic Trail. I'm not expecting you to go home and read all of these things. Some comprehensive management plans are upwards of 100 pages long. I'm trying to let you know, though, that they're there and that you can Google search them and you can search for specific key things. And so if you get into a situation, I just want you to know where to look so that you can hopefully find some useful direction if you are tasked with kind of dealing with a National Scenic Trail or Historic Trail. So again, understand the resources associated with that trail that were impacted and discuss with the local unit and the trail administrator about how to restore / mitigate for those impacts. And so this is, again, something that I kind of, in my experience working as a resource advisor, local units are really dialed in with their National Scenic Historic Trails. and sometimes just really opening up that communication if possible between the lead read and the local unit and the agency administrator to discuss like, how can we advocate for repair in a really useful way during the incident in suppression repair so that the unit isn't really stuck with a messy situation after the fact. Consider how to best complete those repairs. Trail segment within wilderness or not, determine the minimum requirement for repair, and if mechanized or motorized equipment is in place already on the trail. So obviously if we've already gotten that approval, if it is in wilderness and we've already gotten approval to use mechanized and motorized equipment in wilderness, use that to your advantage to really optimize and like expedite the repair of a national scenic trail. And then corridors, historic and scenic values, just identifying what impacts outside of just the trail were impacted, and try to see like talk out effective ways to restore the trail corridor. And again, this is a discussion with partners, trail administrators, local unit if possible. So I'm just going to share some pictures. I was on the Dixie Fire last year, working with, this is the PCT. This is designated wilderness. These two pictures are, after some heavy dozer work went through, trying to catch the fire. And so as you can see, the PCT kind of goes through this completely flattened area. And then we did have some areas just where hand line was put in around across the trail. I was fortunate enough to be on the fire when they moved to suppression repair. And so I did find it to be really beneficial that my position was able to be there and work alongside the lead read to really advocate for, again, not just punching the trail back in, but also considering the resources. We had some cultural resources up there that I really wanted to make sure that we protected in the restoration work. And I had one day where I was out there with 3 hand crews. So it was me and like 60 firefighters. And that was a pretty special day. We got a ton of work done. And as you can see, this is the same area, and we did a lot of really great work just with hand crews. So just kind of wanted to share, just making sure that if we can make the trail corridor. I apologize, Carl. My computer is glitching, so I really hope that you guys can see these photos. But yeah, just wanting to really say that like I had a lot of lessons learned from last year, and I'll share those in a minute here. But so yeah, so we did some really great repair work, and I would really just say that it was all because the lead read got a hold of their trail administrator. We were able to leverage our partnerships. We were able to really elevate the need and importance of the PCT because of, just the communication that we had. So, all right. So I will go back into presentation mode if that helps. So, so we are talking about contacts. So here we go. I'm going to send out this presentation afterwards so that you all have these links, but these are the Forest Service trail administrators, and this is their contact information. So if you need to get a hold of us, there are phone numbers, there are email addresses, and then at the top, I have the link for all the administrators for Park Service, BLM, and Forest Service. And so the question was asked about how do I contact people? This is the page you want. Oh, my camera or my presentation is freezing, of course. I apologize. No. All right. Well, I apologize. My PowerPoint just shut down on me, so I'm really sorry. I will turn off my camera. We'll see if that works. Okay. Um, so let me reopen this really quickly. And while I'm reopening this, I will ask the question, or I will answer a couple questions. So, Danielle, Maria, you had asked about the Appalachian Trail. So the Appalachian Trail is managed by the Park Service. They do have a comprehensive management plan. Their contact information, again, is on that greater page that I had sent, or that I had just tried to show you all. So there is a trail administrator for that trail. 1 second. I really appreciate you all bearing with me here. I realize that the technical issues are kind of frustrating.
Hey, Lindsey, this is Pete Irvin by phone.
Sure. Hi, Pete.
Hi. Hey, sorry for the technical issues. Sorry that I'm joining by phone. I am one of the cohort managers, and I'm sorry that we had some glitches earlier on in not properly introducing you and kicking things off. Appreciate your perseverance, and I appreciate the folks joining and their perseverance. I do have a little bit of background with the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, even though I didn't see the question. I will say that in addition to the Park Service being the lead federal agency, the administrator, that goes through 2 Forest Service regions, and there are identified lead points of contact for the AT in both of those regions. In the southern region, there is a lead coordinator, Sean Thomas, and in the eastern region, it's at the forest level. And with that, I just share that we're about 10 minutes left, Lindsey. In our scheduled time, if you have extra time, we can go long, but I believe Lynn is on now, and she probably has a couple announcements to make at some point later within our regular 1 hour time. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I can wrap it up here really quickly. I just had a couple more slides. So thank you so much, Pete, for hopping in. And yes, so Sean Thomas is the administrator for the Florida National Scenic Trail. And he is the kind of primary lead contact, like Forest Service contact for the Appalachian Trail. So you can always reach out to Sean, and he'll get you to the right contact. And then hopefully this will update. Okay. So the other thing to note is our partners. And so just here, I'm also going to provide the information quickly here for our primary partners who have so much knowledge about our trails and specific sections. And so if you can't get a hold of the administrator, always reach out to the Forest Service partner. Like they're advocating, they exist for the trails. They're going to try to help you along and get you to the right contact that you need, or provide you local context information. And the last thing is National Recreation Trails. They're administratively designated. They are part of the National Trail System Act, but they do not come with all of the sideboards and special management administrators, all of that whatnot related, like National Scenic Historic Trails. But I know that can be confusing to some people when you come onto a unit and people are like, it's a National Recreation Trail. What does that mean? Well, it is included in our legislation. They're designated by the secretaries. They just provide numerous outdoor recreation opportunities, and they're across all 50 states. But again, they don't have comp plans, they don't have administrators, and whatnot. So just so you all know that. And then I was going to talk a little bit about lessons learned from the Dixie Fire last year, but I can pass it over to Lynn if she would like to give some announcements, and I'm happy to stay on a little bit later if anyone wants to further discuss this.
And starting it. I apologize for not being there right on time, but that's what's great about you, Lindsey. You help us, and that's what's great about the cohort. So I just want to say, as we move into fire season, I mean, it was really big in the Southwest, but California and the West really hasn't kicked in yet. Hopefully it won't, cross our fingers, but if it does, and you're looking for reads, and the cohort can help you, we have changed things from the way we've done in the past. We really do want to see that you put in a resource order at Open One, or you've been ordering people, so that we get all the contacts correct for the fire. And that information of all the steps and who to contact are in the email, in the READCohort email. That's the only announcement I have. And now I really want to hear what Lindsey learned on the Dixie. So,
Hey, Lindsey,
am I
you're
present or
on
is Lindsey present?
I'm muted. I'm sorry. It's one of those days, I guess. So yeah, I'll just quickly share my screen and talk briefly about the PCT and how it was impacted in 2020 and 2021. So I know this might be a little hard for some of us to see, but so basically the PCT has been hit really hard in the last 2 years with fires. I hope this isn't the norm, but I am kind of expecting that it might be the new norm. So we've had 194 miles in the last 2 years within burned areas. I'm not saying specifically, obviously, fire is sporadic and, intensity across, all these miles is varying, but the PCT has been impacted pretty significantly through all these incidents. And I'm just saying that because this is becoming common. And so I think it's really important for us to be aware of, how we can hopefully do better around closing, even doing closures around the PCT, communicating with our partners about those closures, and advocating for, again, if we can minimize impacts. This is a ton of mileage to punch back in or to log out. I mean, this is a lot of work. And so anything we can do proactively to utilize fire funding to help the repairs of the PCT is really going to obviously help me and my program out. And so something I learned from just last year, especially being on the Dixie, communication is key. Talk early and often. And so I just got a shout out to, the Dixie incident last year for bringing me into the loop early, letting me know what's happening. Local units were informing our partners, the PCTA, and I felt like had a really good response. And I'm only calling, the other responses were really great as well, but I'm saying that one specifically, I'm a resource advisor. I was able to go out, be on the ground and assist with actually suppression repair. And so that goes into number 2, trail administrators want to help, they exist, we're out here. And if we can, I'm one of few administrators that is a resource advisor, but we can advocate through our own channels. We manage the entire trail. And so we have access upwards and downwards to every local unit, all the way up to forest supervisors, to regional foresters. If something's going wrong, if something's going awry, let us know. We might not be on the ground with you on that incident, but we can be back at our computer sending emails to important people that might need to know to help you get the resources you need to manage your resources. So just know we exist. We want to help. We're there for you. And then we have strong and willing partners that are there to help. And so again, calling out the Pacific Crest Trail Association, they have regional representatives across the entire trail that they are specialists on their segment of trail. If you can't get a hold of your local unit to get context about the PCT, the PCTA has someone that is out on the ground every year, hiking the trail, surveying the trail, like, you know, they know this piece of ground. And so if you need context, we can link you up with our partners and they can help you figure out, you know, what the trail looked like before, help you estimate costs for repair, help, you know, and help you identify, again, all that documents that I was just talking about earlier. They are there to provide you snippets, to advocate, to feed you information, to help you talk in the incident about the PCT or your other National Scenic Trail, to advocate for minimal impacts if possible. So, so this picture that I'm showing here just is, this is a PCT where I'm standing kind of in the distance. You maybe could see a trail sign, but it's kind of unfortunate. This this area right here was actually a turnaround point. There was really nothing, they didn't need to have their turnaround point on the PCT, but it's just where it ended up. And it could have been avoided if they just like chose to park 50 feet, you know, like the other direction. And it's just stuff like that that I was like, wow, that was really avoidable. Like, I'd say obviously things are moving like fast, but it's just stuff like this that if maybe we could have communicated like, hey, could you just, if it's possible, can we like have the turnaround point further down, punch in a hand line, or just like, you know, log out up to the trail, you know, maybe we would have a different repair situation. So again, it's just communicating what's, you know, being flexible, but also talking about the resource. And then I will also just put in this shameless plug, our wonderful Washington office. Thank you, Brenda Yankoviak, for leading the fight on this. Hot off the press, just last week, we did get a BMP for managing trails after natural disasters. And this is general, but man, lots of guidance. And this is super awesome. It talks about completing damage assessments, repair cost estimates. It provides all these useful links to like Forest Service manuals and handbooks related to pertinent topics like hazard tree mitigation, NEPA, closure information. It explores different funding sources for trails. And then it also provides information on innovative trail management. So like just, I mean, we're trying to do better as a trail program to provide you more information about like how to deal and advocate for all trails in natural disasters and do better and hopefully repairing them if they are impacted more quickly. So and with that, I'll just wrap up that again, what resources are available. You know, we talked about all the existing, you know, guidance that we have for National Scenic Trails that are just about trail management specifically, but the Trail of Tears, the Arizona Trail, the PCT, we do have specific, some existing wildfire direction. And we do now have our BMPs for managing trails after disasters. And then we do have forest level READ guidance. I'm not going to say like I've seen really great local READ guidance on our National Scenic Historic Trails for specific units. So call out to those forests. Great job. Thank you for putting the work in. That is really useful. And then what to look forward to is like we are gaining. Oh, could someone please mute? And then what to look forward to is we are gaining traction. I'm taking the lead on this with our National Trails, our National Scenic Historic Trails team. So I am really working with other trail administrators to try to develop fire guidance so that you do have more information on how to deal with this if you're dealing with a National Scenic Historic Trail on a fire. And then just know we're also building out our National Trails Program SharePoint. The link is in here. Explore it. There's a specific page just for National Scenic Historic Trails. And on that, I am putting all of the PCT specific guidance. So, so yeah, so just know that we're doing work. We're not done, but we're starting. And so I think that's my biggest, yeah, call out for the day. So It's 9:30. I realize that most people need to go. But if we would like to have some discussion, I'm happy to stay on for like 15 minutes. I see a hand. Go ahead, Charles.
I'm with Los Padres National Forest. We don't have national scenic and historic trails, but we do have problems with suppression repair on trails. And I think you would certainly agree, very important to have somebody out there when the repair is done that knows what a trail is supposed to look like. Have you considered or reached out to the PCTA to try to get some of their people red carded? I know I'm a walking example that it's possible to do this. I am a volunteer, and I have AD qualifications as a read, or at least I did until recently, till I medicaled out. And I'd like to put in a shameless plug to try to get more people from the partner community involved in this. They can really help.
You are totally on the same track with what I'm thinking. Yes, that is a plan. I am going to be piloting that with the PCTA. As far as like the National Scenic and Historic Trail community, the PCTA, I think we're going to be the first to try to get some of them red carded. It was a goal of mine this year, Charles. Unfortunately, the couple regional reps I was hoping to get red carded got injured, and so they weren't able to take their training and get pack tested. So I'm hoping next year we can kick that off, but I 100% agree. It would be amazing to be able to bring our partner in, especially they are in a lot of ways a subject matter expert of a specific segment of trail, where I'm big picture, like I manage 2,650 miles of trail. A lot of our regional reps, they're managing, a couple, they're managing like 500-ish miles. And so they are a little bit more informed about certain sections. So I love that idea. I was already thinking it, but yes, thank you so much for bringing that up, because it's good to hear other people are doing that and advocating for that. And Colby, your question about the BMPs, I'm going to send out a post email. I'll send it to Lynn and she can blast it out, but I'll put in the presentation and then I'll attach the BMPs for you as well. So you all can have those. And I did actually do a recording for the Park Service retraining with like the beginning of this. So if you want to watch it again or share it, it actually is on, it's already recorded. So, and without all of this awful tech issues. So yeah. Any other questions or thoughts? I see a couple in here, but I think people probably had to jump.
Yeah, I'll put all the presentations, the recording, and everything on the cohort Google Drive too after this. I want to everybody.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
It was really great. I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy we had so much great engagement today. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everybody give Lindsey a good clap. Seeing a lot of claps come up, and everybody have a great and safe day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Safe fire season.